First of all, thanks everyone for being here. Just a quick word, because we didn't necessarily do it in the intro, and we might not have the opportunity when everyone leaves at the end. But thanks a lot for the organizing team at Work for Labs. They've done an amazing job, and I hope you enjoy the little French lunch that we're going to have. I hope that you enjoy the rest of the day. But they've done just a terrific job. It's always complicated to organize an event. I hope you like the location and everything. But so now let's get to business to talk about apps. So, apps is this, we hear a lot the word apps, whether it's for iPhone apps, for, iPad apps, even Mac apps now. And so Facebook apps is a very, very important component of the Facebook platform. So we'll talk about that today, but just a couple of words on my background, even though I feel that you've already gotten my full resume. I didn't expect the full detail. But in terms of, in terms of my Facebook profile, actually, I think the best thing I've done in my career, from my own standpoint, is actually starting my first company and going after opportunities in the online recruiting space. It's a space that's really interesting, not only because there are a lot of things to do, but also because there's really today a big problem in this space where people are looking for jobs, companies are looking for candidates, and there seems to be a very big mismatch. It's very hard to reconcile the two. And there's a lot of opportunity from a technology standpoint, and I think Facebook will be a big driver of that going forward. So on the company, very quickly, it's obviously not a marketing pitch, but just to give you some background on who's organizing this event today. So Work for Labs is the market leader in Facebook recruiting technology. All we think about is how companies can use Facebook to find talent. That's all we think about, and we'll talk about that a bit later. We work extremely closely with Facebook, and we're very glad to have Xavier here and other people from Facebook here today. We work with thousands of companies across the world, from very small companies to very large. So it's nothing very specific to just large brands or B2C versus B2B. It's really for everyone. We've had over 10 million jobs that have been posted through our system over the past, call it 18 months since the creation of the company, and over 50 million fans that are exposed to our jobs worldwide. And then, like I said, part of the team is here today who's been organizing this event. We're around 70 employees split between San Francisco and Paris, which are two very nice cities, obviously, which makes some people jealous that I've spent my time between those two, but that's for the company. So what we're going to talk about today is, what you've always wanted to know about apps and have been afraid to ask. And we'll, have a very simple structure. We'll talk about, the apps, what it is, just, what's an app, what you can do with an app. Then we'll talk about, a couple of apps that can be relevant for businesses. Then we'll give you, some tips to pick apps. And then finally, we'll try to do some, forward thinking and see, what's going to be coming and what you should be expecting. So to go back to Xavier's point on Facebook pages, we do totally agree that Facebook pages is the place to start. When you think about Facebook as a company, the Facebook page is just the first pivotal point in your strategy. There are millions of pages with millions, if not billions, of likes. This is an example of obviously a very successful brand page for Red Bull. Now, apps is what you see here. So it's those four tiles that you see at the top right corner of the page. And we tend to believe that a page without apps or a page with a standard set of apps is very, very boring because it doesn't take advantage of the limited amount of space that you have here to actually provide additional features for either your customers, your employees, candidates that might be interested in your company, any type of audience that you might want to interact with. The only thing that's important to keep in mind here is that you only have really 4 spaces. So using those 4 spaces adequately and thinking through what apps you want to display is going to be obviously a critical part of the strategy, and we'll talk about that a bit later. So now to the apps ecosystem. So what are the type of apps that you can use on a page and why? So let's start with a couple of different apps, and then we'll recap that all together. So the first type of app, which is probably the oldest, the one that's been around for the longest, is promotions. So adding something to your page to run a promotion, giving a discount if you like the page on a product that's being sold, or just a pure coupon-related initiative. We tend to think, and this might be open for debate, that this is not very social. This is very static. This is something that doesn't necessarily generate a lot of interaction or a lot of engagement. It's just something that's very unidirectional. You get the promotion and then you move on. But it's still something that you can use to drive traffic to your page. It will drive traffic and maybe more fans, but very hard for you to get the engagement that Xavier was talking about and actually really leverage Facebook from a social standpoint. Second type of app is e-commerce apps. So let's say you're selling goods or services. You're a B2C company and you're selling shoes like Sarenza, for instance. You might want to add an app on your page that's e-commerce related where you're replicating your shop on Facebook. The reason to be doing that is because you want to keep users on the Facebook platform and avoid losing users that would go to your page, interested to buy something, and have to be redirected somewhere else. So the main interest is to keep users as much as possible on the Facebook platform, but that's pretty much it. And so if you think about the social benefits of this, it's better than promotions from our standpoint, but it's still not highly social, right? It's not something where it's groundbreaking or anything. It's helpful. It provides content to your page, but not, again, highly social activity, even though it can enhance your page from just a pure content standpoint. Now, third type of app is a contest app. So that gets actually a bit better, and much better, actually. Contest apps is, let's offer fans to participate in a contest, win something, share this promotion or this contest with your friends, and get virality. So this is something that's quite successful in terms of driving traffic to your page, but also creating virality. So when someone participates, actually creating virality to their friends and having more people participate and hear about your brand, again, sits at the top right corner of the page as a tile that you can install easily. Now, something very different. Most companies have customers or people that want to provide feedback, whether it's to complain, whether it's to say great job. This is very important, and I think this is actually a very distinguishing factor for Facebook. Is this the sentiment that people have that when they interact with your company on Facebook, it's much less formal than when they interact with a regular corporate site. And so adding an app to your page that's customer support related is actually very relevant and very social. Not only because, again, the activity in itself is social, but also because you can actually leverage the crowd. You can leverage people who can interact with people that ask questions, help you answer some of those questions, and actually build a database of answers that is much less formal than a FAQ that you can find on a site, and also much less formal than just sending an email through a form. So Get Satisfaction is an app that you can try out, but there are many others, obviously, and sits as usual at the top right corner of the page. Another type of app which is content related now. So most of you will have a blog. Most of you will have content on your existing corporate site, like lists of events, again, blogs, whatever it is. Facebook and Facebook apps allow you the ability to actually bring that content onto Facebook. And so why would you want to do this? Simply to add more interesting content to your page. And even if it's the same that what you can find on your corporate site, it's actually a good idea to increase the amount of content, whether it's static or not, that goes onto your page, because it creates repeat visits. One of the big challenges with Facebook pages is that you get a lot of people to come to your page potentially, like your page, and then they never come back. So anything that can drive repeat visitors to your page one way or the other is a good idea. And content is one of them. And again, the app sits at the top right and can be called your blog or whichever piece of content that you want to display. Now, second to last apps is video apps. Very simple, adding videos to your page. You have a YouTube company channel, you have, a Dailymotion, channel with your videos, whether it's your employment branding videos, whether it's customer testimonials, whatever it is. Again, adding a source of content to your page, keeping the user experience within Facebook, and actually trying to get virality, whether it's through your employees liking those videos, whether it's through other mechanisms, is actually a great way to go and a great way to make your page more than just the timeline, but actually add this additional source of content. And then finally, recruitment apps, obviously my favorite topic. It's all I think about all day long. Adding jobs to your page. So just a quick background, right? Recruiting and job searching is a highly social activity. When you look for a job, the first thing you do typically is you actually talk to your friends, you talk to your family. You ask for advice, you ask for introductions to companies. And the result of that is that if you look at online recruiting in general, 30% of the hires come through referrals. Referrals is the largest source of hire by far. Because it's all about relationships. People know you, people that know you can recommend you, people that you can recommend. And so this is a highly social activity, highly relevant in the context of Facebook, because your network of friends on Facebook are the ones that can help you find a job, or are the people that you might be willing to help find a job. So now if you want to do recruiting as a company, what do you need to do? The first step for you is to actually have your jobs on the platform. And that's what it's all about. Bringing and adding a job app to your page in order to have that content available to your users. And the same way that a blog is a source of content that is also on your corporate site, jobs is exactly the same thing. It's a dynamic source of content. There are constantly new jobs. People can visit your page again to view the new jobs, and they can also share it with their friends. But more importantly, you can talk about it with your employees. For most of you, all of the employees at your company will be on Facebook. They can interact with your job much more easily than they can through a regular career site. And just to give you an example of the types of things you can do, and this is obviously only the tip of the iceberg, but if you look at a job on Facebook, what does it look like? It looks very much like what you can find on your career site, on your career section, except it's much more social. It's much more social because you can share the job with your Facebook friends, with your LinkedIn network, with your Twitter followers, whatever you want. You can add videos to your jobs. You can obviously apply for the position, but you can also add a social layer, which is about, for example, and that's what you see at the bottom here, seeing if you have friends that are relevant for the actual position. And the reason that's good is for your employees. Your employees now have an easy way to see if, within their network, there are people that can match positions at their own company, and they can share those jobs and actually drive referrals in a much easier way than they were able to do before. So now that we've seen a couple of apps, how do you pick those apps? And it's actually not easy. So the first thing, and again, goes back to Xavier's point on knowing what you want to do. What's your goal? Is your goal to get more customers? Is your goal to get a better brand image? Is your goal to get more sales? Is your goal to make hires through Facebook? Depending on what you want to do, this will drive the apps that you pick. Now, back to the choice. As we talked about, there are only 4 choices that you can make. So it's you can't say, well, my goals are to have 10 goals, and so it's 10 apps, because that's not going to work. You can only have 4. So out of those 4, how do I pick? If my goal is to get more sales, it's probably that I need, engagement, that I need a lot of fans that I can communicate to. So everything that is going to be, around, virality, everything that's going to be around engagement will be very important. And so organizing, contests, organizing or, setting up feeds to bring content to your page that's going to be interesting to a wide audience is very important. If your goal is to hire, jobs is going to be the right answer for sure. And then if your goal is to get more customer input, more customer support information, then this might be the route. One thing that's extremely important in the context of Facebook is to not try to do it yourself. I think one thing that we hear a lot is that, it's Facebook, it's complicated, there's a lot of things we do, but we also know, the people at Facebook, we like them a lot, but one thing that they make us, suffer a lot is that they change stuff all the time. So the Facebook interface changes all the time, things can break, and if you start building your own apps, it can be a real nightmare. Your job is to pick the apps, define what your strategy is, and then pick the apps that are relevant, rather than try to build and maintain apps that will just not work over the longer run. So this is actually a very important piece of advice. There are a lot of companies out there, whether it's in e-commerce, whether it's recruiting, whatever it is, you'll have a lot of choice that you can get good value out of. So don't build. In the rare case where you're going to want to build, because you say, well, just what's out there doesn't work for me. I want something really very specific. I'm a construction company and I want this page where I'm going to see all the materials or the equipment that we're using, and I want to show that to our customers. And so something custom. Use custom developers that are referenced by Facebook. There are a list of what we call preferred developer consultants. Wildfire and Tiger Lily, who are there today, are some of those. But ask for help. So if in the case where you want to do it on your own, just do it with someone who can help you do it properly. Now, as a recap, to pick the apps, I think there are really three main buckets around picking your apps. One is something that's structural to my business. Do I want to recruit on Facebook? Do I want to showcase my jobs on Facebook? The second thing is, do I want to sell my products on Facebook? And then, do I want to have customer support? This is very structural in terms of the positioning of your company. Then it's all about, adding content, whether it's videos, whether it's blogs, whatever it is, pick it, but, try to do something that will make your page much more than just a pure timeline. And then finally, drive traffic. So ads we've talked about already. So when, you spent your ads budget, what can you do on top of that to actually drive traffic and repeat engagement? And that's, primarily through, promotion and contests. Okay, so let's finish up on what's the future holding for Facebook apps. At least what we think the future is holding for Facebook apps. So I'm sure everyone's familiar with the like button on Facebook. This is the big thing about Facebook. The next big thing that just came recently is timeline actions. So before, what you could do is you were listening to a song and you could say, I like this song, and it was it would say in your newsfeed, Stéphane likes this song. What you can do today is when you're listening to a song on Spotify is actually automatically post in your newsfeed, Stéphane listened to, whatever it is on Spotify, and that's much more specific. Not only does it create more, social interaction, but it's much more specific, and it's those actions, I cooked a recipe, I applied to a job, whatever it is, those timeline actions is what's coming to Facebook. So how does it relate to apps? So let's take a specific example of recruiters, right? Recruiters post jobs. Telling people that you've posted a job at your company versus just liking a job is more relevant, is more precise, and allows for more virality. And so, when you post a job, again, you can have that action that shows up in your own timeline to let your friends know. And then eventually, in some time, you'll get to something where actually you will broadcast a lot of timeline actions to your network. Whether it's, I've posted a job, whether it's, I've run a contest for a certain thing, whether it's I've posted a blog article, just to create a lot more interaction, but also be much more specific in the things you do on the Facebook platform. So to finish up with just a couple of summary slides, having a Facebook page with no apps is pretty much like this guy here. You can do it, anyone can do it, but it's going to be tough. Good luck. So it's the tendency sometimes on Facebook is to feel that I don't even want to get started because it's too complicated. But sometimes once you figured out your strategy, you actually realize that there are a lot of things out there that you can leverage that are almost free or close to free, and that will do the job for you almost immediately. And so apps sort of take you to a next level, right? It's not walking in the desert anymore. It's really like being on this bike on this smooth road and driving through very well. So thanks everyone for being here again. It's a pleasure to have everyone on board and open it up for questions.
Is it working? Yes, it's working. Thank you, Stéphane. Any questions from the room, or should I start? Like
that. Do you think it's worth to not have a Facebook page or to have a Facebook page without apps?
Do I think it's possible?
I think so, yes.
Sure. No, absolutely. No, I mean, you can totally decide not to be on Facebook. I think that's can be a statement. We have an interesting case study, I think, around Areva, which is a nuclear energy company. Definitely not the typical candidate for a Facebook page. Really worried about amazing, horrible comments to the question earlier on. And actually, what they realized is they started by not doing anything on Facebook, and so people created pages on their behalf. So fake pages around the Areva brand that was sort of going completely out of control. And so they realized that the way to address this was actually to have ownership, to officialize their presence on Facebook, so that they were sort of pretty much making the other pages irrelevant. So I think, yes, sure, you can avoid Facebook. I think the reality around social is that conversations will happen whether you want it or not. And so then the question is whether you want to participate.
Another question? Well, while people read the question, I have one. Most questions I hear about apps are, am I going to build an F-commerce app? I mean, app to buy directly stuff from my Facebook page. Does it work? Do you recommend it to your clients?
So I think it's a difficult question because it's very early, right? For a lot of apps, all of that is very early. I think the initial results around trying to sell on Facebook, actually putting your store on Facebook, again, is not groundbreaking. It doesn't change a lot of things, so it's not been super successful. I don't think it's bad. I don't think it hurts. I just don't think it enhances the experience that much because people don't necessarily want to communicate about the fact that they're buying something, or they don't necessarily want to display, what they do from a shopping standpoint. So the reality is you're lacking the social component that would make it, viral and actually enhance what you do. But remains to be seen, I think.
Thanks. Question right there.
What are your recommendations concerning Facebook pages when we're speaking of a group and you may have filiales that are all over the world and opening their Facebook page with different strategies? What do you recommend in the case of recruitment?
So that's a very, very good question. It's a difficult question. So I think, first of all, maybe to lay out the different approaches that you can have in terms of structuring your Facebook page presence when you're a large group that has different brands or different countries. So you can split it by country, right? If you're in different countries, and in the case of Accenture, they have one page per country: Accenture France, Accenture UK, Accenture US, and so on. If you're Gap, they have different pages by brand: Gap, Banana Republic, and so on and so forth. Then you can also even split it at the franchise level. You have companies where, take Robert Half, which is a big recruiting organization. Each agency has its own Facebook page. So at the local level, you're getting the presence. So now, what's best? So I think the first thing to take into account is language. What we've seen is actually you need to interact in the right language with your audience, right? If you're in France, you need to interact in French, unless you only want to hire, English-speaking people, in which case it might make sense to do it in English, but really language is a big driver. So from a recruiting standpoint, if you're in separate countries, you can have a global careers page. That's what L'Oreal is doing, and then separate local pages for each of the countries where you can do much more of a local approach. So I think that's, language is a defining factor. I think brands is also a defining factor. So it really depends. If your brand is strong, and if you have several brands that are strong, makes sense to split the presence, on Facebook. If your brands are not that strong and the recruiting strategy doesn't really revolve on those individual brands, then you might as well like combine everything because you'll get more leverage at the top, at the corporate level.
Thank you. I have another question. Can I? What is your opinion of, I'd say competitors, if you wish, like Oh My Job? How do they compare with Work From Us?
They're horrible. No, I think there are three different approaches on Facebook around recruiting. One is to provide tools and software to companies, and that's similar to what Taleo is doing, right? So we see ourselves as sort of we don't have the applicant management side of things, and we never will, but we see ourselves as sort of the Taleo of Facebook, or we hope to become the Taleo of Facebook. Then you have companies that are trying to create job boards on Facebook. You're trying to be sort of the monster of Facebook, or the Cadre Emploi of Facebook, or smaller than that in the case of Oh My Job, and that's very different. We have, it's not necessarily a company-specific approach. You provide services to companies, but the end goal is to actually recreate a job board, pool companies together, and provide services to the end candidate, regardless of which company he's interested in. And then you have the third type of app, which is more the LinkedIn of Facebook, where you're saying people will want to recreate a professional network on top of Facebook, and that's more like Branch Out or Be Known. And that's, again, very, very separate, very different positioning, and assuming that, from a recruiting standpoint, one day you will want to use Facebook as a database to search for candidates. So, to answer your question specifically, we don't really see Oh My Job as a competitor at all. We think it's a job board mentality, which is not very social in itself. And I think the way you want to think about Facebook from a recruiting standpoint is as your own company. What can you do to leverage your brand? What you can do to leverage and own your own traffic, not like share it with others.
The question?
Thank you.
Okay, Ana Sanchez from L'Oréal. Then my question is, okay, we have already the application for jobs, but how you can maximize this application? Because I have the feeling that actually my fans, they are not clicking there. Yeah. So how you can really enlarge this application?
Yeah, that's a very good question too. So there are three ways that you can do this. So first step is to have your jobs on the platform. First, very obvious way to promote your jobs is Facebook ads. So you have your jobs on the Facebook platform and you use Facebook ads to promote those jobs. So let's say you recruit a lot of graduates, you recruit from a certain type of schools. Facebook is perfect for that, right? You pick the schools and you target the student from those schools and you direct them to your jobs or to your page and the list of jobs, and they can search. So Facebook ads is the first way of distributing your jobs. The second way of distributing your jobs is through your own employees. And so within your employees, there are two types of employees. There are, regular employees, quote unquote, and then there are, recruiters or hiring managers. And this is very much a communication effort internally. Gap, for instance, sent a communication to the whole company when they launched their Facebook page with jobs, telling people to set up, to regularly go and like jobs that were in their own division to promote it to their friends. But, I think and there will be more tools, by the way, that will be developed in the future to help you do that more effectively, but I think this medium is very strong to actually get virality around your jobs, because it's not about just going to the corporate site like it was in the past, copying the link to the job, putting it in an email, clicking on send. Right now it's just going to the page, clicking on like on a job, and then it's broadcasted to your friends. So I think point number 2 is really using your own employees to broadcast positions. And then I think the last thing is really have a referral mentality. Again, I think Facebook, the biggest opportunity is referrals. People share, like Xavier was saying, 4 billion pieces of content, per day, sharing all day long. And so sharing jobs is an employee referral or a referral. And so getting that to work is also the other big driver. And incentivizing your employees to do that, whether it's with a bonus or gaming mechanisms, is very strong. And last thing I'd say, obviously, is you need to post things on your wall, your own wall, as a page owner, that's relevant, right? So it's not only about posting jobs, because it's going to be very hard to sort of, target the right individuals who are fans of your page, but more talking about careers, having your own employees interact with your wall, to respond to people. It doesn't only have to be you that responds. It's actually can be your employees that respond personally to things. So doing that and creating a sense of community, that it's different to interact with my company from an HR standpoint on Facebook than it is outside.